Oh, we changed, and oh, I even managed to get my beautiful flower in the picture. That wasn't planned. How about that? So, this is Dr. Neferovich. Thanks for joining me in the reading room. It's been a cool Michigan day the last couple days, but the sun has been shining, and we are going to take advantage of it. What's with that? What's with that darkness there? Could be. Makes it look like my glasses are tinted, but or the one lens is tinted, but it's not. Let's get going. Who cares? Who cares? Let's yeah, I'm on a little wobbly surface here, so I'm not going to do much of anything here but read to you like I'm supposed to. We are on chapter 7 of, and we're going to see, we don't need the title there. We know what it is. It is the mostly true adventures of Homer P. Figg. Why don't we need the title there? Well, because it's so beautiful. We get to see the view. Whoop. Lucy, you stay here. I don't think there was anything. Come here, sit down. Good girl. Okay. I know it's a little breezy out here, so I'm going to try and speak up a little bit so that you can hear me over the breeze. I don't know how much, and knocking on the table too. I don't know how much of that ends up coming through for you, some of that breeze. I'm not sure. I don't have my microphone here, and so typically if I don't have my microphone, I think that's better. We'll see. The Man in the Sack, Chapter 7. I once told Parson Reed of the Pine Swamp Congregational Church that my mother and father were not dead, but away visiting Queen Victoria, and that they would soon be sending for me and Harold. You know what I have to do, though? I have to turn off the dehumidifier, because that is a loud hum in the background. Hold on. Somebody else is doing some yard work there, so you hear that in the background too. But at least I keep that dehumidifier out here, and it gives me the water that I want for my plants. So I just take it right out of that dehumidifier. It gets filled up in a day, and it makes 2 canisters of water. It fills 2 canisters of water, which is about a gallon each. Canister is about a gallon. We're talking about Parson Reed right now in Pine Swamp Congregational Church. So he kind of told a lie, right? The parson was powerfully impressed that a boy of 5 knew the Queen by name, and even more impressed than when I explained that my father had been hired to fell all the trees in England, and that the task would take no more than a week. The parson said he'd not been aware that so many trees remained in the British Empire, and I explained that my father could fell a tree with one swing of an axe and could therefore lay an entire forest down in an hour or so, depending on his mood. And while my father was laying waste to the forest, my mother was busy in the royal palace teaching the Queen how to spell. When Parson Reed said it was a great surprise to learn the Queen could not spell, I explained that until recently, kings and queens had no need of spelling or reading because servants did it for them, and the person remarked that I had a surprising knowledge of the world for a child my age, or of any age for that matter. The kindly person may have been amused by my inventions, but my brother was not. He told me our dear mother had made him swear he would always be truthful, and that his oath extended to me, even if I'd been too young to swear it myself, and that every time I told a lie, an angel fell from heaven. For days after that, I went around looking for fallen angels, but never encountered one, so I come to believe my big brother must have been mistaken, even if he did believe such a thing. But as strict as he can be about never lying, I'm pretty sure Harold won't mind if I bend the truth to stay alive. Of course, that's before I find out what they want me to lie about. First thing Smelt does is force the prisoner to sit up. There's something pitiful about a man with a sack on his head, knowing he can't see what's going to happen next and how every little noise makes him flinch. The light of dawn has come into the lean to shelter, and I can see the man's hands are all swollen black from where he's been tied up. You hear me in there, Festus? Smelt demands. Count of 3, I'm cutting off this sack, and if you don't want your head cut off too, you better tell us what we want to know. Out of Smelt's wide leather belt comes a thick blade knife with a wicked curve just right for slicing a hog's throat, or a man's. He slips the shining blade up under the flour sack and slices it open with one flick of his wrist. The sack falls away, and I'm looking at 2 white eyes as big as saucers, 2 white eyes in a face the color of creamed coffee. Festus is our darky friend, ain't you, Festus? The white eyes squint up at Smelt, and I can tell the darky man is fearful, but he's angry too. I ain't Festus, he says, never was. You're Festus if we say so, Stink insists, waving his fist in the man's face. The man gives his head a stubborn shake and glares up at Stink. My name is Samuel Reed, and I'm a free man born to a free woman in the state of Rhode Island. Smelt slowly crouches down, holding the big knife. He smiles in a way that makes me feel sick to my stomach. If a snake could smile, it would look just like him. This ain't Rhode Island, he says, and we don't care who you was born to or where you got the crazy notion that a darky can talk the same as a white man. All we care about is this. Tell us where you hid them runaway slaves. They're not slaves, the man insists. They have been set free by President Lincoln. Yeah, they ain't slaves no more. Why they running away? The man refuses to answer. The way he's keeping still and quiet, it's as if he expects to die before the sun gets much higher. Might be he's praying too, without saying the words out loud. Best to get over with, Stink suggests. The last chance, Smelt says, pointing his knife. Speak or meet your maker. The darky man gives his head a little shake. You can tell he's scared of the knife and he doesn't want to die, but he won't say where the runaway slaves are hid, even if it kills him. I'm scared of that knife too, but something in me needs to pipe up, and I can't stop my mouth from saying, you might just as well throw your money in a hole in the ground. What? Smelt and Stink turn their attention to me. You can't sell this man if he's dead, I point out. Stink looks as if he's fixing to punch me, but Smelt stops him. Hold on, he says. The boy may have a point. We could forge owner papers easy enough and collect the bounty. Bounty, I ask, figuring the more talk, the less call for a knife. $10 bounty for every slave returned to Maryland, Smelt tells me. Emancipation don't cover the border states. That's a legal fact. They're talking about Emancipation Proclamation. I heard men arguing about it down at the general store where they smoke and chaw of a Saturday afternoon. Seems like when President Lincoln declared that slaves in the Confederacy were free, he didn't dare free the slaves in the Union states like Maryland, Delaware, or Kentucky, in fear the border states might join the rebels. The proclamation is more like what they call a promise to the future when the war has been won. Don't count for much now, not if you're a slave. Smelt and Stink get to talking and decide they'll leave the darky man alive for now, at least until the boy helps them locate where the runaway slaves are hid. The boy who's going to lie his way onto the Underground Railroad. The boy who's going to make them rich. Must be that scared makes you stupid, because it takes a while for me to realize the boy is me. Stink Mullen takes charge of Samuel Reed, the darky man, while me and Smelt head off into the pine forest looking for a trail. He's tied a rope around my neck like you would with a mule or a dog, and if I pull too hard, the rope tightens. You're a quick little fella, he says. Best keep in mind you can't outrun my knife. To demonstrate, he flicks his knife at a tree trunk and hits it square in the middle with the blade buried deep. There may come a time when I can get loose and run for it, but for now I'm going along, doing what he says, walking through the soft leaves, smelling the spruce and pine all around us and the ferns that tickle my knees. About a mile from the lean to camp, we finally come upon the trail. By the look of it, wagons and horses have passed by recently. Smelt rubs his scraggly beard and nods to himself and says, we ain't that far to go, so we best get your story straight. My story? Who you pretending to be? Family hiding the fugitives is Brewster. He says as if expecting me to be impressed. You heard of the Brewster mines? I shake my head. Ain't heard of much, have you? Jebediah Brewster come here from Pennsylvania and made a fortune in gemstones. Now he's selling lead and copper to the army and using the money to send slaves to Canada, where they can't be touched. I know for a fact the old man has got 30 fugitives hid somewhere on his property, but I don't know where. That's what you're going to find out. Yes, sir. Run away and we'll kill the darky for sure, and sell your horse and then hunt you down. I promise not to run away. You're a liar, boy. Your promise don't mean nothing to me, he says with a sneer. Only promise counts is this. If you run, my knife will find your back. Yes, sir. We aren't but a half mile on the trail before the ground starts to slope away and the trees thin out and the sky gets big and full of sunlight. At the bottom of the hill is a fine stone wall, straight as a schoolmarm's ruler, and beyond the stone wall, set like a jewel on the crown of a soft green hill, is a big house. An amazing house. A grand house made of stone and brick with white pillars in the front, and curtains in the window, and slate tiles on the roof, and chimneys on every corner. I'm thinking I'd give anything to live in a house like that, and be rich and happy, and never have to worry about anything. And then Smelt yanks on the rope around my neck and says, the best lie starts with the truth, boy. Tell him your name is Homer Figg, and you're looking for your brother. Tell him your horse got stolen. Tell him you're hungry. Smelt takes the rope off and shakes me like he wants to make sure I'm paying attention. You understand? Just get inside the house. Yes, sir. They'll likely take you straight to the kitchen. Brewster's cooks will fuss over a skinny runt like you and want to fatten you up with biscuits and butter and honey. Sound good? Yes, sir. It does sound good. Women who work in the kitchen will know everything that's going on in the house and in the mines, too. All you have to do is keep your eyes and ears open. Yes, sir. After supper, you make an excuse to go out to the privy. I'll be waiting. I start to say yes, sir, but he puts his finger on my lips and says, shh. Don't lie to me. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking how to you. Then he lets me go. Chapter 8. Pancakes in Heaven. Uh-oh. I got no data. Well, this is so disappointing. So, it looks like my stream is not ending, but my stream is very choppy, but it does still continue to usually have my voice. I just don't want it to end and then, have it end with me not being able to be reading the story. 9,000 frames dropped. I hope it's not a problem with Xfinity since I changed my count. Hope it's not a problem with me. Okay, well, I don't see a green, but I'm getting it. Oh, there we go. Nope. Wait. Oh, shoot. It was green. It's coming green. It's coming back green. I think I might be able to finish this. I'll check it out and we'll see. Although the recording becomes terrible, and I don't know why the recording should be terrible, but I guess it goes through. You know, whatever. All right, so it's like a rainbow down there, a complete rainbow. So we'll see. The house on the hill, remember, pancakes in heaven. The house on the hill gets bigger and bigger the closer I get. There are puffy white clouds reflected in the windows, and the clouds are moving against the sky, and that makes it look like the whole house is moving too. It's like I can feel the earth turning and have to be careful where to put my feet. The whole thing makes me so dizzy that the gentle green hills seem to get steeper and steeper, and finally it tips up, and I'm face down in the grass. Fainted from lack of food. All that talk about biscuits and butter and honey, it must have reminded my stomach that it hasn't had food since I wolfed down the slop intended for Squint's hogs and started the whole terrible business of Harold getting sold to the army. Soft, soft grass, better than a pillow, makes me forget I'm hungry, makes me forget everything. Next thing I'm floating, no, not floating, I'm being carried, and there's a gentle murmuring voices that sound like running water, and then I'm in a warm place, like somebody is holding a cup to my lips and telling me to drink. Just a small sip, the voice says, and for a moment I think it's our dear mother, and then I wake up and see big gray eyes studying me. Big gray eyes and rosy red cheeks and a helmet of fine white hair. Turkey broth, she says, good for what ails you. The lady with the gray eyes helps me sit up. She holds the cup while I sip the broth. Nothing ever tasted so good or made me feel so warm and safe and alive. Do you know where you are? She asks. Big house, I say. The Brewster house, she explains. I'm Mrs. Bean. Brewster Bean, my tongue says. I'm the cook hereabouts, she gently explains, and when they find a starving boy in the front yard, it's only natural they bring him to me. Mrs. Bean takes the empty cup and says there's more where that came from when I'm ready. She folds her plump arms and looks at me kind of sideways, as if trying to see inside my head. Are you simple, dear, or is it hunger makes you ramble? I take a deep breath and try to clear my head. Then I tell her who I am, like Smelt suggested, and that I'm looking for my brother and that my horse got stolen, and leave out where I came from exactly so nobody can send for Squintin' Leach. I see I don't have the best connection here. Seems like Mrs. Bean believes most of it because she starts nodding and saying, oh dear, and decide it's time to shed a tear or two for my lost brother to really make her believe me, and the next thing I know, she's hugging me and patting my head and promising that Mr. Brewster will find Harold. When Jedediah Brewster sets his mind to a thing, watch out, she declares, dusting her white apron. Mr. Brewster will be back later, and you'll tell him what you told me. Orphan boy searching for his brother. That will get his attention. Meantime, Mrs. B makes it her mission to fill my belly. She asks would I rather have a plate of meat and gravy or pancakes and bacon, and I go for the pancakes. While the bacon is sizzling in the big frying pan, the kind our dear mother called a spider, I sit next to the stove and watch because Mrs. Bean, she's something to see, the way her plump hands fly around the room like pale white birds, bringing things out of the cupboards and jars and larder boxes. I'm assuming that's lard, like the fat. Can't help notice you lack shoes, she says, stirring flour into a blue mixing bowl. Did you lose them along the way? Figure there's been enough truth for the day, so I say, yes, ma'am, lovely pair of boots made from the skin of a timber rattler. A rattlesnake? Oh, my. Yes, ma'am. Snake had me concerned when Harold wrestled it to death. Snake tried to spit in his eyes and blind him, but Harold was too quick. Broke his neck with one flick of his wrist. Amazing, she said. A snake with a neck. Must have been 30 foot long. Mrs. Bean nods. a little puff of flour comes up from the bowl, and then your brother skinned the snake and made you boots? Is that what you're telling me? I thought about that and decided modification was in order. Not exactly. Fact is, Harold did skin the beast, but I made the boots myself. Had a matching belt, too. They took everything. The thieves who stole your horse? What did you call that horse now? King something or other. Prince Bob. Bob's a thoroughbred racehorse. 3 years old and faster than a bee sting. Remarkable, said Mrs. Bean. And where was it you said you came from? Oh, up in the north, I said vaguely. Little no-count place. Yes, but it must have a name, mustn't it? Every place has a name, no matter how small. Smelt, I tell her in a moment of inspiration. Excuse me? Smelt. That's what they call it, on account of the swamp nearby. I'm congratulating myself for not calling it stink. Stink would be too much to believe, but smelt is subtle. Smelt is rarefied. Never heard of smelt, Mrs. Bean allows, fixing her calm gray eyes on me. Thought I knew every village in the state of Maine, at least by name, but I've never heard of smelt. I almost say that Smelt had never heard of her either, but think better of it. Nothing like the prospect of pancakes to make me smart-mouthed and sassy. Mouth shut, I take the time to survey Mrs. Bean's magnificent kitchen. The room is bigger than Squint's whole house, with a fry stove and a bake stove and a full fireplace with a Dutch oven. Pantry has more canned goods than the general store in Pine Swamp. And there are 3 different slate sinks, one for washing dishes and one for rinsing vegetables and one just for the heck of it, I guess. Loads of cupboards with glass fronts, copper pots of every size, rock maple countertops, a butter urn Mrs. Bean says belongs in a museum, and drawers. There are big drawers and little drawers and bread drawers and knife drawers and linen drawers and drawers for extra things left over. Mrs. Bean suggests I stop opening and closing the drawers and sit down to pancakes and bacon. She pulls out a chair and scoots me up to the kitchen table. Then on a big white china plate is a pile of pancakes I only ever dreamed about because there on a big white china plate is a pile of pancakes I only ever dreamed about because Squint never gave us more than stale bread and sour molasses. Pancakes slathered in yellow butter, steaming pancakes drowned in warm maple syrup. Figure Smelt must have killed me for sure, and I've woken up in heaven, or maybe I'm still so hungry I can't think straight. Then I decide that good as these pancakes taste, this can't be heaven because there aren't any clouds or golden harps or angels with whispery wings, and God would be there too, wouldn't he, if this was really heaven. That's when he comes in from the parlor dressed all in black. God himself. That's the end of chapter 8. We will be on chapter 9 with Quaker Talk when we come back tomorrow in the reading room for our regular time, or at our regular time, which is what? 3:15. So at 3:15 tomorrow. Thanks for joining me here in the reading room. I am Dr. Annette Farovich. That is all we have for today in the classroom. I'm the teacher. Thanks for joining me. I will see you tomorrow. 8 a.m. sharp.